Now, imagine seeking care for your child who has disabilities only to be separated from them for months as a result of seeking that care. I mean, that was the reality for Elly Chapple, who was wrongly accused of a rare form of abuse known as fabricated or induced illness. And this is where parents exaggerate or cause their children's symptoms. It was formerly known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
This led to Elly being forced to live apart from her daughter, who's deaf and blind, for 8 months, while social services and the family courts investigated. And Elly joins us now alongside Sunday Times special correspondent Emily Dugan, who's just found that this is one of hundreds of similar cases. And Elly, your daughter Ella has been living with these complex conditions for very many years. How did it suddenly end up with you being accused of mistreating her and her being taken away from you for 8 months? I mean, did something change?
Yes, so in March 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, Ella was very, very sick, and we ended up in A&E on the 18th of March, which was pretty much the week the Prime Minister was telling everybody to stop doing everything. There was national anxiety and panic going on. And we turned up at hospital, having not been there for 10 years, because we'd kept her well, with a very poorly daughter. And things just went on from there. That's where it started.
So she was very poorly. You were trying to get help for her.
Yeah.
Were you aware that your attempts to get help and get treatment were reflecting bad on you at the time? Or when did it become clear that people had suspicions about you?
Not straight away, although I was frantically searching for somebody who'd remember us at the time.
Right.
And it wasn't until, I think about a week or so later, and the social worker called to say that concerns had been raised and that they would want to speak to us. So they came to hospital while she was in intensive care, and we had to talk to them about our version of events, what happened.
And what did they suspect you were doing?
Well, they thought that we had got her there too late.
So you'd been neglectful in a sense?
Yes, and there was question over whether we'd over-medicated her. So they brought together an initial child protection conference while she was in hospital. So my husband and I attended that, which was the longest 4 hours of our lives, and it was rigorous. But I have to say the chair of that was probably the only person I felt really comfortable with in social care. He was a real man of integrity. And I thought it was very fair, very rigorous. They had to do this job. And the decision was reached that we weren't neglectful, so it was a really difficult time.
Emily Dugan from the Sunday Times, you've investigated cases like this. Thing, fabricated or induced illness, I think probably more commonly known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. This is something which the Royal College of Paediatricians and Child Health, they have guidance on. This is a thing that doctors and paediatricians are looking for. In your view, with your experience, is that because there are lots of cases where parents are fabricating a condition? Or is it because the medical professionals have in their mind to go looking for it and they're finding it when, as in the case of Elly, it wasn't there?
Yeah, I think one of the really big issues here was a new set of guidance that got published in 2021, and that gave these alerting signs for FYI. And we know it's incredibly rare, and clinicians agree it's incredibly rare. But this guidance, it included things. So it had these alerting signs, basically, which included looking out in parents for things like making lots of complaints, asking for multiple opinions.
Isn't that parents' job?
Right. And so this captures a lot of parents at their lowest, most frightened point, when they're feeling anxious, and they might have gone to Dr. Google and they might have looked for other, possible answers. And if the doctors aren't giving them answers, this is where you get into kind of a conflict situation. And unfortunately, these guidelines are capturing anxious parents. And that's where we're seeing problems.
And do you think that this is happening regularly, that Elly's case is not just a one-off, but there are lots of parents who are being accused by doctors and paediatricians of fabricating something, and then, you know, after, in your case, I mean, 8 months away from your daughter, and then to find out that they were wrong and you were obviously in the right. Is this happening a lot?
Well, there's no government data on this, but there was a snapshot survey done by the University of Leeds in 2023, and that showed that almost 400 families were being accused of this. But obviously that's just a snapshot, so we don't know. It's at least
accused wrongly.
Now, the issue here is that we don't know how many of those were substantiated. We suspect almost very, very few, because we know from another piece of research from the University of Central Lancashire, where it showed that there were only 4 serious case reviews since 2010 where this very rare type of abuse was substantiated, and none of those resulted in death.
What effect do you think this has had on Ella? Because presumably you and your family are such a vital part of her life. To be separated from her must have been very difficult for her and for you too.
Yeah, it was utterly traumatising. Absolutely the worst thing I've ever endured in our lives. And I'm not sure still how we got through it. And we're a strong family, so I don't know how a mum on their own would manage in week 1. It's the whole system comes at you with such speed and velocity. You barely can stand up. It's horrific.
And how, I mean, I can see you're still emotional about it now, and I don't blame you. It's incredibly tough. What effect has it had on you long term and on Ella? Do you still find yourself checking yourself twice or things like that?
Yeah. I mean, I have triggers. I still panic. I worry that people already have formed an opinion about me, and it's a lot better than it was. I'm 5 years on, but it takes a very long time to trust again.
And you, of course, have a challenging life anyway. I mean, Ella, I'm sure you adore her, but she demands a lot of care.
She does, but she's amazing because she's, despite what happened to her, which was horrific, she's still the most utterly forgiving and kind, wonderful person on the planet, and she's taught me and my family everything about what it is to be a human, and that's the most important thing in this.
It must have been so hard for you and Ella's dad, for the state to say that he could care for her, but that you weren't allowed to. And I know that that she had some behaviour which you saw the consequences of in terms of blackening of her eyes. I mean, how did the two of you manage to navigate through such a traumatic thing?
Because we always put our children first, and if it meant living apart to keep them safe, then we did it. And that's just what we do.
Cool.
Look, we have a right apply from the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health. A spokesperson said that guidance on FII is now due for a routine update. I'm sure you would agree with that. And as part of this process, any new evidence will be considered. The college is actively exploring options to ensure that the planned update to the guidance sufficiently captures a multidisciplinary approach. We will continue to uphold strong principles of best practice with a focus on the well-being, safety and rights of children and young people. What would you say, going forward, is key to change? Is there anything that you could advise people maybe going through it now?
I think you have to stop treating our community as different.
Our community being those with...
Anybody considered different, whether you've got a different brain, a different body,
Right.
you know, the othering that is going on in our society because we are different has to stop. Whether you're disabled, neurodivergent, whatever, these are the groups that are being targeted by this, and it has to stop.
Emily, what would you say should change?
I think they do need to look again at this guidance, because it seems to me that the way it's written is just so broad that in the hands of someone inexperienced, for example, it's very easy for them to look at a family and say, this this doesn't feel right.
No.
Well, look, thank you very much to both of you, and thank you to you for your bravery to come in and speak about it. We can see it still hurts, and I'm not surprised. Look, if you've been affected by any of the issues we've been discussing, you can find advice and support at itv.com/helplines.